Welcome to Item Breakdown, a series where I analyze every single item in Mario Maker 2, go over their properties, and find interesting ways to use them in our own levels. This video is all about the Twister.
I gotta go, Julia, we got cows!
A Twister is a gizmo asset available in every game style. It is 1x1 tiles in size and affected by gravity. A Twister will move left and right, turning around at solid objects as well as ledges. Once spawned, a Twister begins creating an airstream above itself, taking around 4 seconds before it's fully formed. This airstream is able to pick up many different objects, including Mario. A Twister's airstream extends 6 blocks above the Twister, as well as extending 1 block outwards towards the top, a rare instance in which a hitbox actually aligns with the animation. The airstream doesn't only exist above the Twister though, and is also present in the entity itself. Actually, any praise about hitboxes matching their animation is officially revoked, as a Twister's airstream also extends ever so slightly below the Twister, leading to some strange, sucking situations. A Twister's airstream extends through solid objects and terrain, unlike the Twister entity itself. Objects caught in a Twister's airstream will float to the top, then hover up and down. They will also be pulled into the center of the Twister, allowing a Twister to carry objects even as it moves. Mario caught in a Twister's airstream is no different. However, by timing his jump similar to jumping off of a note block, he's able to leap much higher out of the airstream. He will also continuously activate any blocks above him without any input from the player. While Mario usually isn't able to escape the pull of a Twister, with enough momentum he is able to run through an airstream without being caught, only being slightly lifted off the ground. Mario is also completely immune to a Twister while grabbing onto a vine. If Mario gets caught in a Twister's airstream, it will interrupt actions such as spin jumping, wall jumping, long jumping, cape feather flight, and SMB2 Mario Super Jump. Though, in the Super Mario 3D World game style, Mario will recharge his mid-air twirl once caught by a Twister. A Twister does not apply any weight whatsoever to a seesaw, which in turn means it's not catapulted upwards by one either. And a Twister is only able to be defeated by being crushed. Despite the airstream animation lingering, as soon as a Twister is destroyed, its airstream is no longer functional. A Twister has no variants or modifications. In fact, this section is going to be a whole lot of cannots. It can't be placed inside of a block, pipe, or Bill Blaster. It can't be given to a Lakitu. It can't be part of any enemy stack. It can't be placed in or occupy a Koopa Clown Car or Lakitu's Cloud. It can't be placed in or be picked up by a swinging claw. It can't travel through a clear pipe. It can't be placed on a track or be given a key. It's unaffected by Mario wearing either kind of shelmet. It isn't part of any clear condition. And it can't even bounce off of note blocks, trampolines, mushroom trampolines, or hop chops, which means it doesn't produce any sound from a music block. So, what does a Twister even interact with? Well, a lot of things actually. Its airstream will lift most objects in the game, with some caveats of course. It will lift every item you see here, from fallen coins to P-balloons, as long as none of them are winged. It will lift most enemies as well, with some exceptions. A piranha plant cannot be lifted if it is attached to a wall or ceiling, or if it's coming out of a pipe. It also can't pick up a muncher coming out of a pipe either. And it ignores certain enemies with wings, while interacting with others, indicated by the graphic on screen. I'm actually just talking long enough so that it stays on screen an adequate amount of time. I think that's good, right? And as far as gizmos go, it will lift a POW block, trampoline, P-switch, and crate, as long as none of them have wings. Even though wings give a Twister trouble, any course part with a parachute will be lifted by its airstream, even objects that it would normally ignore. And you can't resume basic behavior if you never land. Moving on from course parts, Mario caught in a Twister will have certain flight abilities refreshed, such as Propeller Mario's Twirl, Flying Squirrel Mario's Swoop, Propeller Box Mario's Twirl, and Bullet Bill mask Mario's flight time. In the night sky and airship themes, a twister is affected by low gravity. In the night ghost house and underwater themes, it emits a small amount of light from its center, except in the Super Mario Bros. Game style. A twister travels slower through liquids and is not destroyed by either lava or poison. A twister's airstream will also break when entering or exiting liquids. And finally, when fully submerged in any form of liquid, its airstream will not extend above the surface of the liquid. So, now that we know how it works, how do we work with it? The twister stirs up some devilishly creative course mechanics, though it seems like most creators shy away from using it. This is probably due to the perceived jankiness of its airstream. However, I think most of the jank people refer to is just players not understanding how it works, from mistimed jumps to inopportune sucks. I won't deny that it feels frustrating when a mishap occurs because of the twister, but I don't think this is reason enough to blow past it altogether. It excels at what it does, even if what it does kinda blows. Traditional levels, in my opinion, get the most value out of Blowy Joey. By the same nature though, you'll also see the least optimal setups in traditional levels as well. Figuring out when and where to place one of these is difficult, and there are a ton of different situations they can be used in, from being the main mechanic to simply supporting its fellow course parts. Here are a few of my favorite uses, as well as best practices. When traveling upwards, the twister allows Mario to reach new heights, and when paired with other enemies or hazards, timing jumps becomes a must. This is also true when traversing horizontally, although usually across dangerous terrain or none at all. For some added challenge, try having the twister move around a bit. Because it refuses to walk off ledges, some interesting jumps can be made when placing them on tracked blocks or blocks with wings. If you're not a fan of having the player travel inside the twister, they could always be used to create floating platforms themselves. By lifting objects, such as chain chomp stumps, it can create some really unique platforming patterns. Remember when I said the twister isn't part of any clear condition? While this is technically true, the don't touch the ground clear condition is almost tailor-made for a course with twisters. Having Mario hover in these airstreams while trying his best not to fall out can be nerve-wracking. Or, on a similar note, you could have Mario avoid getting caught in the twister at all, creating challenges around maneuvering past these tricky typhoons. They actually do surprisingly well as obstacles meant to be avoided. Placing hazardous objects on the ceiling with twisters underneath forces Mario to approach this corridor cautiously, timing his movement with the airstreams surrounding him. My only note here would be to keep in mind the time it takes for a twister to wind up. At sprinting speed, Mario is able to outrun these twisters as their airstreams haven't fully formed yet. And one of my absolute favorite applications of the twister would be creating the illusion of bubble-blowing pipes underwater. While I'm still a little salty the twister can't just be placed inside of a pipe, this still gets the job done. And with the right enemy and terrain placements, it can be a whirlwind of a time. No? Traditional levels may be the twister's best application, but there are plenty of other potential prospects worth pointing out. Like puzzles, where the twister must be guided to certain areas, or prevent Mario from accessing others. Or platformers, where this sticky cyclone is Mario's only ride across tricky terrain. Some auto-scrollers can use a bed of twisters as a slow-moving vehicle, while enemies and hazards litter the path ahead. Taking this a step further, the twisters could instead be the engine of the vehicle, floating a moving set of platforms across the stage. The changing tide of this poison makes the boat rock up and down as well. And, of course, if you just hate fun, take inspiration from Carl Sagan and create a treacherous typhoon-powered anti-softlock. Oh yeah, that's more your speed, right? And that's just another once-in-a-lifetime devastating weather event that clearly humans had absolutely no influence in creating. If you're looking for more inspiration, check out another one of these item breakdowns. A huge thank you to my patrons and YouTube members for making this series possible, and I'll see you in the next one.